off your engine! Well, it turns out that Honda is the first one to make a production level 3 autonomous car. The Honda Legend is going to be ready, they say, March 2021, which will be the first mass-produced level 3 autonomous cars. You know, there's various levels from 1 all the way to 5. 5 is fully automatic, and that's going to be forever, if ever. But level 3 allows the drivers to let their cars drive through congested traffic. Presently, the only one that's really out there is level 2, which can control their own speed and steering, but there has to be a driver watching it the whole time. With level 3, the car can drive itself under certain conditions, but a driver still has to be ready to take over in case of emergency. To me, this sounds like there's going to be a lot of problems. You get people thinking their car's driving and they're playing a game or something, and then wham. I'm not into this technology at all, but Honda's the first one that's going to be selling them. 2021 in March. The Honda Legend. It used to be the Acura Legend. Now they're coming back with a Honda Legend. Now Tesla, of course, says it's close to level 5, but they've said they're close to all kinds of things for a long time. So this is the first level 3 one with Honda. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. Because remember, Honda made that little robot, the first one that would walk up and down stairs and stuff. So, you know, they're into autonomous stuff. We'll see what happens with their level 3. We'll see if they start smashing into people and lawsuits start falling out of the sky. Well, coming soon to a Walmart near you, Walmart is going to test out driverless cars to deliver packages to you, and they're using the Cruise. Now, Chevy owns a certain amount of Cruise. This isn't the Chevy Cruise, the horrible car they made. This is General Motors Cruise. Cruise is a company that General Motors has put money into, that they're working on cars that drive themselves. Starting next year, they're going to do this in Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, when I lived in Houston, Kroger's had a different company that they were doing deliveries in my neighborhood. I saw these cars going around all the time, so what's that? And then I'd see that it was a driverless car, but there was a driver behind the wheel for safety purpose. And then in some areas, they test them where there's no driver in the car, but there's a person following it with another car that can control it in case something happens. And of course, Walmart isn't just banking it all on Cruise. Walmart's also dealing with Ford and Waymo, the one that Google Alphabet owns. They will all be electric, self-powered vehicles that Walmart's planning on using to make themselves green. And they're also, Walmart, testing drones. They're presently using some drones to deliver COVID tests to people. No contact there. The machine's bringing it. Now, Cruise itself is a company that was founded in 2013 in California, making electric self-driving vehicles. GM's invested over $1 billion. Honda says they're going to invest over $2 billion over the next 12 years in Cruise. So it's a serious company that a lot of people are taking a look at. That's where Honda and GM had a deal going on together, which is kind of odd to me because Honda makes such better vehicles. But when you're talking about electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, technology is so high, a lot of people are probably going to be sharing stuff more than they do with internal combustion engines where they're all competing against each other. So you may soon see a driverless car, if you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, delivering Walmart stuff to your house. The one in Houston, I didn't have any problems seeing. I didn't read about any accidents. I saw them in my neighborhood all the time, driving around, delivering groceries. So who knows? It's still probably a long way from being a common occurrence that happens all the time, but they're working on the technology now. And this company, Cruise, they've been around a few years, so they're starting to hone it down in the real world now, instead of just experimenting in parking lots and closed roads, driving in actual real-world situations. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But check out this blast from the past. It's a Ford RS200. It was a rally car that was built from 1984 to 1986. Even back in the day, it was expensive, but it was an extremely fast vehicle. And there's one for sale now in Europe. Now, there's a particular one that's for sale. It's over 600 horsepower, which is an awful lot for the small engines that they put in them. Back in the day, it went 0 to 60 in under 3.2 seconds. That's supercar territory today, and this was back in 1984. It actually held the Guinness World Book of Record for fast accelerating car for many years. It was so fast, ahead of its time. And there was a guy in England who tuned one up, who ended up getting 704 horsepower out of one at 8,000 RPM. Sotheby says that it's probably going to go between $500,000 and $700,000, so it's not cheap, but back in the day. There was some technology out there that rivals the stuff today. And if you look at it, it's still a pretty snazzy looking car. You probably never heard of the Ford RS200. It basically was a rally car that they mainly had in Europe, but it is a very interesting looking car, and it is a zinger. So if you've got $500 to $700 in your pocket, you might want to go to that Southby auction that they're having soon and pick one up. Realize that this thing only had a 2.1 liter engine. It was a little engine, but they knew how to soup them up. The English were always good at doing stuff like that. Take small engines and get as much horsepower as they could out of them. Rather than putting in giant engines, they get small ones and they'd soup them up to see what they could get out. It was a different game, but they still ended up the same way with a lot of power and a lot of speed. Well, if you're into speed, you know that new Mustang GT500 does the quarter mile, 11.3 seconds, and it has 760 horsepower and 625 foot-pounds of torque. Well, guess what? Ford just announced they're going to soon sell that engine as a crate motor. So you can get insane horsepower from a crate motor that you can put in other Fords, older ones if you want to. Just like Dodge did with their Hellcat motor. They made a setup where you can buy the crate, Hell Crate, I believe they call it, and you can put it into older Dodge products. Now, I've driven the old 2013 Shelby Cobra GT. That only had 667 horsepower. Going to be a little bit more than that. It's got 760 horsepower. What I like about it's got a supercharger on it. Superchargers are good for instant power. They are simpler than a whole turbocharger system that's based on exhaust and intercooling problems, and things wear out faster because you got all that exhaust stuff that eventually from the heat and driving is going to wear out. They spin super fast, the impellers on the turbochargers. So I kind of like superchargers myself when it comes to speed. Now, Ford doesn't say exactly what the specs are going to be for the engine, but, you know, soon they'll have it out and you'll be able to buy one of these engines. Stick it in some kind of Ford that you want. Well, here we go again. Tesla Cybertruck is going to be redesigned yet again. We've seen it with the shattering glass and all that stuff. You know, they haven't produced any yet, of course, but it can't meet many regulations in Europe for sale for a vehicle used on the street. So they've got to actually design it so it can be used legally. Now, with all those pointy things, it's not safe for pedestrians. They have to redesign it. And, of course, when they actually do start making the things, if it doesn't sell, they would have to redesign the entire thing to make it look more like a truck than something from an outer space B science fiction movie from the 1950s. You got to face reality when you're building stuff. This is one of the really big problems that I've seen with all of the Teslas, is that he tries to make them so futuristic, where the other companies that are making electric cars, inside they're making them look more like normal cars. They're just electrified. So you're used to driving it. You're used to a certain setup. You don't need to throw the baby away with a bathwater and make everything look super futuristic, and then it's going to confuse people. You're used to driving with the setup. You should leave it alone. That's why ages ago, they went from analog speedometers to digital speedometers. And first they'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles an hour, right? And so they'd go 30, 31, 29. It drove people nuts. So most modern cars, they have a digital speedometer on them, but it is a fake analog one. You see it go around the dial like the old ones, which is hilarious because there's a digital signal coming off the transmission, and that's sent up to the dash, and then there's a stepper motor there, and the computer makes the stepper motor move to show the speed, just like the old spinning cable did. They had to reverse engineer it because that's what people liked. They didn't like straight numbers. They liked seeing that dial. Well, he's probably going to have to redesign a bunch of these Cybertrucks if they ever get them into production. Now, they don't give any solid evidence on what they're going to do, what it's going to look like. I mean, this is all up in the air anyway. And who knows, maybe they'll even have to drop the name Cyber because it's not going to look like some kind of cyborg. It's going to look like a regular truck, which is basically what guys with trucks want. If you really look at pickup trucks, they haven't changed much in their design and how they look for, 60, 80 years. That's because they function fine the way they are. You should just leave it alone. They work things. Guys can modify them any way they want, but they basically still want it to look like a pickup truck. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.